Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey, what's up guys? Back with the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. My phone is at a weird angle because my stupid tripod thing broke, so let me adjust that. But anyways, as always, here to answer your questions about the art of distillation and any form that you want to send them along. Always glad to help where I can, and if I don't know the answer to something, I will certainly try to find it. But feel free to reach out to me at bishopshomegrown@gmail.com or any of my social media or the YouTube comments below, and I will do my best to find a good answer for your question. Things at Old Homestead Distillery are rolling right along. We just finished up our first batch of absinthe. Very, very proud of that. The wormwood, mint, etc. was all grown here on the Bishop Homestead. You know, we bought some other botanicals, obviously, to go in there because I can't grow everything and don't desire to grow everything. It's already enough work making a true absinthe as it is. But the first one that we have finished is a one-off seasonal absinthe that'll come out sometime this fall. It's actually colored and slightly flavored post-distillation with marigolds, tagettes to be specific, tagettes that I've specifically bred for the art of distillation, for the coloration of absinthe and various other botanical-based spirits. So we're going to be starting on our vert, our green absinthe very shortly, as well as our amethyst-style absinthe, which is purple. Lots of liquor laid down. I've had a few friends stop by and do some tastings of some stuff, and everyone so far has been pretty damn impressed. And I'll be honest with you, this is the hardest I've ever worked at a distillery. There ain't no doubt about that. The Sunshine Spirits line, the Sunshine, sunflower-based, moonshine-inspired spirits line, is pretty intensive. It's all done by hand. It's all done the way that you would do it at home in wooden casks and, you know, with an actual mash rake and the whole deal, right? You're mixing everything up by hand, even if you're not doing a cook. And it's all cold mash. You got to mix that sugar by hand. You're malting grain by hand. You are modifying grain by toasting and roasting by hand. There is a lot to do, including hand grinding. With the absinthe, for example, there's growing the botanicals, drying the botanicals, cleaning the botanicals off the stems, and then grinding those botanicals and or bruising them, redistilling multiple times. It's a lot. It's a lot. That alone is a full-time job, not to mention the fact we're about to fire up the other stills and start making bourbon and rye. And luckily I've got someone lined up as a still hand that I think is going to do a great job, and we'll see how that all plays out in the near future. But let's get into your questions, because I got, you know, maybe just enough here to do one video, and I'm going to try to get through it all in one video. We'll see if we do or not. So let's see, this one's from George. Hey Alan, my favorite whiskey is peated single malt, and I noticed that the peat aroma is strongest deep in the tails during the stripping run. It fades after the spirit run, even when I include tails from the last spirit run. What do you think of holding back some deep tails, some sweet water, and using it in place of some of the proofing water before aging? I like to go into the barrel bad mo in the low 60s ABV. Will the barrel clean up the quote-unquote bad tails? Cheers. Fantastic question. And glad to try to answer that to the best of my possible ability here. So the first thing I should state is that sweet water isn't bad tails. True sweet water, when you get down into the teen area between 10 and 15, somewhere in there, that truly is, and we're talking proof there, that truly is basically the essential oil of whatever you're distilling, and mostly water. Now, you don't want to add a lot of that to it, but adding a little bit to it in a barrel can certainly add a lot of complexity and bring those phenolic, smoky sort of flavors to the forefront. I wouldn't be opposed to adding some of that to something if I needed some more smoke. What I would tell you is probably a more logical thing to do, a more reliable thing to do in general for smoke, is much like agave spirits. Anyone who's ever distilled agave spirits knows that if you really want that agave to come through, you've got to treat it a little bit differently, right? You might have heads, and you might have hearts, and you might have tails, but if you want that agave to come through, there are going to be portions of those higher tails that you're going to want to include. And what I mean by that is, after you cut out of what you know to be your hearts, have a separate container ready. You're collecting your tails in a container. Have a separate container ready to collect some of those fractions of tails. As it's running off, go in, taste those tails, see what you think. Is there something there that's interesting? Is there something there that's got that smoky character? Maybe say, just as a little guideline, maybe a hint, somewhere in the low 80 proof region, you're probably going to find some stuff that's got some smoke to it. Collect that stuff, set it aside, come back the next day. Don't do it the day of when your palate's tired, you can't tell what you like, what you don't like, you just want the day to be over. Even if you don't think you do, I promise you, you do. Come back the next day or a couple days later, start playing around, blending some of those tails that you selected back into your hearts, and I bet you'll find your smoke more than likely. I couldn't tell you whether or not that's an actual Scotch or Irish methodology. I would suspect there's some of that going on. There's also, you know, they're adding different fractions at different times, and double pot still even over there. Everybody has a little slightly different methodology in general. There's lots of different roads to Rome, but that would probably be the easiest version of it that I could put out there, that I think you'd probably find some practicality and some success in. So anyways, try that. Let me know how it works out for you, and I'll do a little update on it, because I would love to hear your results. Let's move on to the next one here and see what we got. So all right, so this is from Floyd Sutton, talking about the Texas judge and 156-year-old booze ban being called unconstitutional. Would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Seems promising to me, but I would like to hear your professional opinion. So I've talked about this a couple times before, but I'll talk about it again. So first and foremost, I've not done a lot of research on this. I'm not going to tell you that I'm the authority on it. I'm happy that it's happening. I think it's awesome that the Home Hobby Distillers Association went after this. What I will tell you is I've seen a lot of people that are having a misunderstanding, currently thinking that home distilling is federally legal. It is not. Unless you were a member of the Home Hobby Distillers Association that actually entered into this lawsuit, the stay on prosecution federally, not state-wise, by the way, guys. State can still come after your ass. In fact, the feds can still come after your ass if you're not a member of the Home Hobby Distilling Association. The stay on prosecution applies specifically right now to the group that is involved in the lawsuit. States could still go after them if they wanted to, for sure. And if any of those guys is caught selling anything, and you can be sure that they're being watched by TTB for sure, if they get caught selling anything, they're going to get their ass on tax evasion. They took the smart route, which was to say that making home distilling illegal because of it being a potential loss in revenue profit to the federal government is unconstitutional. I believe is absolutely 100% correct. That's the same tack that winemakers and brewers took when they got their art legalized for home consumption. Even if this leads to nothing initially, what I will say is the genie's out of the bottle. The glass is cracked. They ain't no putting that genie back at some point in time, if nothing else, just to keep us plebes, us peasants down here on the lower level, to keep some of us satisfied and happy to some degree. I'm sure they'll throw us a bone and let us do some home distilling. I mean, when Walmart.com is selling Beavers, HomeDepot.com is selling them, the hobby's pretty damn widespread, right? And it's going to be kind of hard for them to put that back in the bottle at this point. So that's my take on it. I'm happy to see it. I want to see it continue. I want to see it progress. And I think that some great things can potentially come out of this. So let's see what else I got here. Give me just a second, guys. I apologize. Man, there's a lot here. Hold on. Okay, so I think there's just the one question here. Just got a whole bunch of other things on it. So, all right. So from Jeff, hi again. Thanks for answering my previous questions. I don't know how you find the time. I don't either sometimes, guys, truthfully, but we're glad that you're willing to take the time in sharing your knowledge. With regard to putting fruit in the vapor path during distillation, whether it be apple or pear or whatever, either via a gin basket or in the column above plates or packing, which is better to use for extracting flavor, dehydrated fruit chunks or fresh cut fruit chunks? In other words, is dehydrated fruit or fresh cut fruit better to use in the vapor path? Or is there no discernible difference or benefit either way? I've done both, and it honestly, to be truthful with you, it depends on how well I've planned. I prefer dry fruit. I think you're getting a lot more of those concentrated compounds. You're blowing off some of the volatiles that are going to blow off during distillation anyways. And the other thing is, depending on how much fruit you put in and whether it's going into a pot still and or a column still, if you're putting in fresh fruit, you're going to drive your proof down a little bit through part of the run, right? Because you're extracting all that water from that fruit as well. For me, dried fruit is much more intense. The aromatics are much more apparent from dried fruit than they typically are with fresh fruits. So I typically like to use those dried fruits. Now, I don't want them crispy dry. You know, I want them dried down to where if I store them, they're not going to mold, and that's about as far as we're going to go with that. I like dried fruit pretty much anywhere in the vapor path I can get it, or in a thumper. You know, different strokes for different folks, different tools for different jobs, sort of thing. You know, putting it into a thumper is going to have a different effect than it's going to have putting it into a vapor path, a gin basket, on a bubble plate, things of that nature. Whether or not it's in contact with liquid, is it in contact with vapor, is it in contact with liquid and vapor? That's all going to have an effect. And to some degree, certain fruits, in my opinion, only really work when they are dried. So a lot of people here have tried to make strawberry stuff, right? You've tried to ferment strawberries. It's pretty volatile. You don't get a lot of flavor off of it, etc. When you do, you're getting some of that phenolic character of the seeds off of it. One of the tricks that we have used over the years is to actually take alpine strawberries, which we grow ourselves. These are the old-fashioned wild strawberries. They only get about the size of your fingernail, maybe a little bit bigger. There's whites, there's reds, etc. Alexandria is one of the great varieties. Pineapple is one of the great varieties. Very intensely flavored. We dry those down, we turn them into a powder, and then we put those into typically Tennessee thumpers, where I've gotten the best flavor from those, where they're in contact with liquid and vapor both at the same time, and in small amounts, but across multiple vessels, multiple retorts, seems to really pull the flavor out. It's also true of raspberries and things of that nature that we've played with in the past. Now, those I don't dry all the way down because there's such a high water content with those, with the raspberries, etc., that I like to get them. They need to be used that day or the day after, right? They're going to mold if you try to store them. I don't want them all the way dry. I want them partially dry. I want them intensified. I also like to freeze them, obviously, even before I dry them down. So I'm busting the cell walls and also intensifying the aromatics and the flavors from them. Another quick fat kid note on those alpine strawberries: dry them bad boys down, put them in a little coffee grinder, turn them into a powder, and sprinkle that shit on some ice cream. You can thank me later. I promise you it is the most amazing thing that you will ever have on vanilla ice cream. So let's see what else we got here. Maybe we can get through one more, maybe not. We might have to do a separate video. Ooh, this is a long one here for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to come back and do another video just specifically for this, and that'll give me a couple videos for the week and get me caught up for a minute. But please keep your questions coming. Check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Our books are still available there, The Alchemist Cabinet Volume 1 and Volume 2. The brand new Distiller's Almanac. I'm probably 3/4 of the way done with writing the articles. I'm going to reach out to some other people that I want to contribute again this year, such as Aiden Pemberton, as well as Eric Wolf, as well as Wayne from Ozark Stillworks. And then on the If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast side of things, if you guys are into the paranormal, 14, and high strangeness, check out the podcast. Instead of doing weather predictions, I'm currently talking to some of my tarot reading and or otherwise divining friends about doing some predictions for the next year that might be kind of interesting, since it is a Distiller's Almanac and it leans a little bit towards the esoteric. Anyways, guys, I love y'all, and I'll catch you soon.